Rob Doster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Good morning, everybody. It's June. And we've got an emergency show because, as we've talked about, it never ends. It never, ever ends. Jeff Goodman is wearing a UConn hat. Rob Doster thought he'd be enjoying the Phillies chasing after a pennant during the summer. Think again. I'm John Fanta. And on this Thursday morning, as you wake up, you read that Adrian Wojnarowski reports that the Los Angeles Lakers, who had reportedly zeroed in on one JJ Redick as their potential next head coach, think again, because the head coach of the reigning back-to-back national champions, 51-year-old Dan Hurley of the Connecticut Huskies, it's reported this morning that the Lakers are making a strong pursuit targeting Dan Hurley to become their next head coach. It's earth-shattering news in basketball in a variety of ways. There's so many layers to this. Jeff Goodman, when you look at all of the pieces here, what is your initial reaction to the head coach at UConn, the face of college basketball right now, being targeted by a crown jewel brand in sport, the Los Angeles Lakers?
I was just told by a source close to the situation that, again, there's still a long way to go with this, okay? But the Lakers want him. So this is not done by any means. We know Dan Hurley is a very complicated individual. He's going to think this thing over. He's going to sleep on it. He's going to go to his room, his special room in his house. I'm not going to say what that room is. And really think about this thing, because it's not as easy as some would think, right? I mean, this is a guy who understands the difference between coaching Alex Caravan and Jordan Hawkins and some of those guys in college to having to coach LeBron James at 40 years old and Anthony Davis and deal with those egos. He knows what has happened to the previous coaches who have tried to coach LeBron James. There's a shelf life. He also understands that this is something that, sure, he thought about. I talked to him about it when I went down to stores before this season about the possibility of coaching in the NBA. Sure, it's been in the back of his mind, but he never thought that this would be an actual, possibility for him, a decision for him. The Los Angeles Lakers, obviously one of the prized franchises in NBA history. So he's going to have a difficult decision here, and it's not nearly as easy as people think.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, this isn't like a small franchise that's looking to find a way to get a little bit of buzz, right? This isn't like the Detroit Pistons are reaching out and saying, hey, can you try to solve this mess that we have right now? It's the Lakers, right? They are synonymous with the NBA. It's the place that Magic played. It's the place that Kobe played. It's the place that Shaq played. It's the place that Kareem played. Like, it is the Lakers in LA. And I struggle to, it's not like Kentucky's interest, right? Like, this is different than another college program coming in, because I don't know if there is a program, even if Hurley was being completely honest with you, I don't think that he would say that there's a program that he thinks is better in college basketball than UConn. I think he truly believes that. But this is the NBA, and it's not just the NBA, it is the Lakers. And when that call comes in, you have to pay attention to it, right? When LeBron James is sitting here saying, like, we want this guy to be our coach, you have to take that call, and you have to listen, and you have to pay attention to it. Now, whether or not that is the right fit for Dan is a completely different question. And I think there's two different levels to it, right? On the X's and O's and basketball, like just strictly basketball side, I think that he's more than capable of being able to be an NBA coach, right? You look at the sets that they run. You look at the style of play that they have. You look at how good he was at being able to create spacing on a team where one of their primary initiators in their 5-man couldn't shoot. Like, they had 3 shooters on the floor last year, and they had more space on the floor than pretty much any other team, right? The creative offensive sets, the intricate stuff, the counters to counters to counters to counters. Like, he runs some really high-level, complicated things. And not only is his offense elite, but they're always well scouted. They're always well prepared. They always have really, really smart and sharp game plans. And it's not just Dan that's doing that. It's also Kamani and Luke and Tom Moore and the rest of that staff. But I think the basketball side of it is a perfect fit, right? But it's more than just X's and O's when you get to the NBA level, because so much of what makes him him and so much of what makes him successful at the college level is the intensity, the player development, the 2.5 to 3 hour practices, the way that they set a certain standard when they are doing that work in the summer, when they're doing that work in the offseason, when they're actually in those practices. And I don't know how well that stuff translates, right? And I told you guys before the show I was going to make a comparison here. This reminds me a lot of the John Beilein situation, right? Where Beilein ran all of the stuff that you want to be able to run at the NBA level, right? He ran all of these creative offenses, and it was modern stuff, and it was different than what a lot of people were doing at the college level. But when he got to the NBA, the personality side of it didn't necessarily work. And John Henson can attest to that. Our resident Cleveland Cavaliers fan here, John Fanta, can probably attest to that. And I think that Dan,
that's different. That's different. Hurley's way smarter. He's more like, he's nuts.
Hold on. I agree. I agree.
Change. Beilein can't change. He's
Dan
an old man
that's the thing
who
about
couldn't
it.
change. Like, Hurley, give him some credit. He's insane. Give him some credit, though, that I think he is smart enough. If he walked into that situation, he would understand that he can't be the Dan Hurley at UConn or at URI or Wagner or even St. Benedict's. He has to adapt.
If you would have let me finish, that's exactly what I was going to say. But thank you for.
I mean, you were going on a diatribe for 20 minutes. I had to interrupt.
Look, hey, I got a lot to say, man. I could go for another hour.
Okay, all right. Hey, okay, Stephen A. and Monica. All right, let's go right there for a moment. Here's my.
I'll be Monica in that one, please.
Yeah. Here's my 30 seconds on this. It's the Los Angeles Lakers. Dan Hurley has a very large personality and a large ego. He has talked before about coaching in the NBA. There's not going to be, there is never going to be a better chance for him to capitalize on this dream than right now. He's won back-to-back national championships. The Lakers are not the Timberwolves. They're not the Thunder. They're not the Cavaliers. They have LeBron James, and they're on a pursuit to win a championship. It's a no-brainer for if you want to go. Jeff, as you said, there's a lot that this comes down to. He might realize in the process it's not worth it. There's more atmosphere cons, right? But at the end of the day, money, the brand, the sexy nature of LA, like, yeah, it's more surprising to me, Jeff. Jeff, it's more surprising to me, and then I'll hand it to you. It's more surprising that the Lakers are pursuing him than I would ever be by him taking it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100% there, because to me, again, when you watch him, does he really fit the NBA? And again, as Rob said, like, from an X's and O's standpoint, yes, that fits. But from an ego, from watching him on the sidelines, I always say in the NBA, obviously it's all about the players. And the coaches have to just kind of sit there for the most part, and they coach. In college, it's all about the coaches. And it's all about Dan Hurley, and it has been about him at UConn. So when he goes to LA, it's all about LeBron. Can he change enough quickly? Because, frankly, this could be something where it lasts 3/4 of the season. And the other part is, listen, and we can get into all this, like, you're dealing with a 40-year-old LeBron James. You don't have bullets. Your bullets are Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura and Cam Christie. you don't have a lot there besides LeBron, an older LeBron, and a brittle Anthony Davis. So I'm with you, Fana. Like, I don't know if it's the right move for the Lakers, but if I'm Dan Hurley, hell yeah. Like, the only reason why I'm not is because I have a chance to three-peat. But my kids are older. I can make a boatload of money. I can experience a dream that I may never get a chance to do again with a franchise like the Lakers in the NBA. And yeah, if it doesn't work, I'm going to get the best college job, just like Billy Donovan. I'm going to get the best college job that is out there in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's going to be.
I will say this too. There is an element of living in LA that is a little bit nicer than living in Storrs, Connecticut. So I think that probably would play a factor in this as well. But look, honestly, it's going to come down to what he wants, right? Like, if this is what he wants, if he says, I've done everything that I could do at the college level, because this isn't a situation like Jay Wright getting burnt out on the college stuff. This isn't like Roy Williams getting burnt out on the transfer portal stuff, because frankly, UConn hasn't had to deal with it at the level that these other programs have had to. They can kind of get who they want. Like Liam McNeely, Aiden Mahaney, like these other guys turned down more traditional blue blood programs that probably had higher monetary offers for them to be able to go play at UConn, right? Like this is winning 2 in a row, saying, I think I've peaked on what is possible and what is capable at the college level. Do I need to try a new challenge? Is there a new beast that I need to try to conquer? And if that's what he decides he wants to do, then what can you say? But then, kind of wish him luck and say, I hope it works out for you. And real quick, just a note, like if you're a UConn fan here, and I've gotten a lot of this today, if you're a UConn fan and you're angry and you're calling them disloyal, like, come on, it's the Lakers. He's going to like triple his salary. There isn't like a single person here that would not listen to the Lakers. I don't care what your job is, right? Like if that job comes along, you have to listen. What are we even talking about here? How can you be mad at that? It's not like he's bouncing to Kentucky, right? It's not like he's leaving for Kansas. It is the Lakers. It is LeBron James. But all right, so he's going. The other thing that I would, if he was here on this call, the other thing that I would just kind of say is like, when you go there, you are going to basically coach LeBron James' team, more or less, right? And if you do that, and you got to get out there and you got to kind of MF Bronny James in practice in front of LeBron, like, are you going to do that? Is that going to work? Like, will that style of man management, of player management, of coaching work at the next level? And I don't know if it's going to, man. And I think that's what makes him who he is. And if you change that, I don't know if he is who he is. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like that's why he's successful, because he sets that standard and they never drop below that standard. But I don't know if that style works when you get to pros. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I also think, when Jeff says the stuff about, he's insane and whatnot, I would say this, like, there is an element of this that's an act. Okay, there's a heavy element of this that is an act that then results in his players playing very hard for him. It's a good thing. It produces wins. It produces a lot of success. I think he manages that act in game. Officials have come to learn that sometimes he's doing something for show, or he is a showman. He is. He would have to change that in the NBA. One thing I want to hit on, though, Jeff, is like the side reaction to this is, what the hell? JJ Redick. I thought this was going to happen, and you obviously have had your reactions.
I got a conspiracy theory. I got a conspiracy theory.
What is interesting is that anybody that's working on this, like I was working on a story on why JJ could where there's a world where he could be an NBA head coach, and a lot of people in his circle talking to them fully anticipated that he was going to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. So Jeff, you'll go first, then Rob, give your theory. Like, what the heck, Jeff? What do you make of this? That now all of a sudden this could be falling through?
I don't know what happened there. I mean, again, I think Rob Pelinka knows what happened there. Sometimes, again, we don't get the whole story here of exactly what happened. Did JJ Redick kind of pull back and say this isn't something he wanted? Because Shams certainly put it out there that it was going to be JJ Redick, that all signs were pointing towards Redick being the guy. And now Woj, and obviously Shams and Woj are, bitter rivals at this point. At one point, Shams was kind of the protege. But Woj puts out there that it's been Hurley all along. I'm not sure I believe it's been Hurley all along. I think, again, the Lakers went through their due diligence here and are still doing that. And then Hurley kind of emerged and is part of the emergence, maybe because Redick didn't want – I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Rob. What's your crazy conspiracy theory here?
All right, look. Taking off the normal hat, putting on the tinfoil hat, okay? This is all conspiracy theory. This is not – it's a tinfoil hat. This is all conspiracy theory, right? But here's my conspiracy theory, okay? The Lakers saw the pushback. They heard people like you saying, why would you hire JJ Redick when you have all these other opportunities? Why would you do this? Why would you make that move? Why would you make this play? And this is the Lakers front office, the Lakers brass, Jeannie Buss saying, hey, look, we tried to go get the best coach out of college, and it didn't work. So they end up getting JJ Redick, but they still have the out to say, hey, we tried to get Dan Hurley. We tried to get this other guy. We didn't just settle for JJ Redick. We made an effort. We called all these other people, and it didn't work. And now we're going to hire JJ Redick. Taking it off.
I don't know. Again, I don't know. We don't know the answer to that. Pelinka does follow me. He does follow me. I've known Rob a while.
Oh my God.
Listen, ask Pelinka. I'm not kidding. Ask Pelinka. I told him years ago, Donovan Mitchell, he called me, and I told him Donovan Mitchell that year was the underrated guy in that class. Ask Pelinka, I'm telling you. So maybe he did read my Redick tweet about it being – because I do feel like, honestly, JJ Redick right now coaching the Lakers isn't going to work, but I don't know who's going to work. I don't know who would work.
Here's the thing. With both of those guys, right, with both of them, if we're being honest, I think that they currently have I don't want to say better jobs, but jobs that they would enjoy more than going and coaching the Lakers. Like JJ Redick is the #1 lead analyst for ESPN, and he's got like arguably the best basketball podcast on the planet, one with LeBron James and then his own podcast. Like he's reached the pinnacle of 2 different fields in the media world where he's making enough money on top of what he already made as an NBA player.
Pressure,
he's never going to have to work
zero
again.
pressure. He golfs whenever he wants. Like he's got the life. He's got the life.
Like he's got the life, and he's going to go coach LeBron and the Lakers that just cycle through coaches.
No. He's going to go be the coach. He's going to go be the coach. But when you don't coach LeBron. Nobody coaches LeBron. Nobody's coached LeBron for years. Like that's the thing here. You're exactly right. He's enjoying golf. He's enjoying red wine. JJ Redick's got the life right now. But here's the other thing. Dan Hurley's got the freaking life right now.
Yes.
And the Lakers are.
Yes, he does. He does, Fana. He does. And again, this shouldn't be a reason why he's going to turn down the Lakers job. But the college landscape has changed, okay? It has been insane since the season ended between the portal, between trying to figure out NIL, going out raising money. Now, again, as Rob said, UConn's got it pretty good today. They've got it pretty good today, and we don't know what revenue sharing is going to bring. But this is a 24/7 job right now in college. And if Dan Hurley calls up somebody like Brad Stevens, and I always remember Brad telling me this when he made the transition to the NBA, he was like, listen, I drive home now from practice, and I look for people to call. Like, nobody's calling me anymore. Now, the travel's crazy during the season, but after that, it's pretty good life for NBA head coaches if they want it to be. I mean, we talk about it all the time about these lazy former NBA players and coaches coming into college and how hard, like, it's earth-shattering to them to see how hard they have to work or had to work before NIL to get this thing going. It's a different lifestyle. Again, more travel, less overall work.
Yeah, look, I also do think there's something to be said for UConn kind of being in a spot where they are outside of what could end up being the power structure in 3 to 5 to 7 years. Like, we don't know what college athletics is going to look like in the future, right? Like, let's just say that there is a possibility where we're looking at a world in 10 years where the Big Ten has hoovered up half of the universities, the SEC has hoovered up the other half of the universities, the Big 12 doesn't exist, the ACC doesn't exist, and the Big East doesn't exist in the form that we all expect it to be in, right? And all of a sudden, you have these two major conferences with like 40 teams each that are just playing each other, that have the NCAA tournament to themselves, that have restructured the way college athletics looks. And there's no guarantee that UConn is going to be on the inside of that group, right? And I do think that that is probably something that has to kind of be mentioned here as well. But it's that, to me, that's enough in the future where I don't know if that would be something that would come into play in this conversation as well. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I will say this: when go ahead, Fanny, you got something?
Yes, we're going to do a quick reset here, folks. This show's being distributed to a variety of platforms. So give us a 3, 2, 1. This is a special edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Again, Dan Hurley, the breaking news here, being targeted by the Los Angeles Lakers. This is massive, massive news. I mean, that's the other thing, guys. Like, Rob, I cannot remember the last time on June the 6th, that something of this magnitude that could have the ripple effects. You're talking about if he were to take this job, the UConn players would then have a 30-day window where they can transfer. I mean, let's talk about this for a second. This is a question that's floating around. Say he takes the job. It's June. It's not like there's a bevy of people out there. Now, UConn's a different job, too, in the sport of college basketball. But, Rob, what would be your approach if you were David Benedict, the athletic director? Say that has to happen. He has to find a head coach.
There's a couple of factors at play here. One is that a lot of the guys that you would typically want to hire in this situation are already locked up into long-term contracts with big buyouts, because jobs like Louisville and jobs like Kentucky already opened up this offseason, right? So how far do you have to get down on that list where you got a buyout that isn't going to be 8 figures? And when you don't have SEC and Big Ten football money backing up what you are trying to do and pay for a buyout, then that is that's a tough situation to be in. The other part of it is, if you go out and you hire somebody from the outside, are you going to lose a lot of guys on this roster? Is Alex Caravan going to stay there if after everything that he did, you don't promote from within? You don't give Kamani Young a chance. You don't give a Luke Murray a chance, right? So my guess is that they probably would end up giving Kamani I think it would probably be Kamani. If you look at what happened remember when Dan Hurley got tossed against Villanova in 2022 and Kamani Young ended up being the head coach. Some people mentioned that Luke was the head coach at Seton Hall when Hurley had COVID. Kamani also had COVID there. He's the associate.
I mean, Kamani's the associate. Kamani's the associate head coach. It would be hard to pass up. And honestly, no disrespect to Luke, I think Luke's a hell of an assistant coach. I'm not sure Luke Murray is the head coach at UConn right now works. And I love Luke, but I don't know. I don't know if that works. It's going to be hard enough to give it to Kamani or Luke, even given what they've done over the last couple of years. But being that it's this late in the game, like Rob said, and that these guys, here's the only name I would go after. There's one name. There's one name for me.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
I would, if I was David Benedict, I would take that swing at, you know who it is? Bruce.
Can I guess?
Pearl.
Yes.
Bruce Pearl. That's the only one for me. He's from Sharon, Massachusetts. He's down at Auburn now. He's done an unbelievable job. He's been successful everywhere he's been. He's got the personality, right, to match Hurley, doesn't he? If there's anybody that could keep that fan base riled up to the level that Hurley has riled them up and gotten them going over the last couple of years, It is Bruce Pearl. So if I'm Dave Benedict, that's the only name. That's the only name I call.
Two things. Like, first of all, you must be like, are you reading my text or something? Because I've literally said that exact same thing to like 5 different people this morning, right? Two.
I don't want to see your text. I don't want to see your text.
Number two, I think correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Bruce have a lower buyout than some of those other guys at that level, right? I remember, so he's got a little bit of a lower buyout. I think there's 2 stumbling blocks here if we were to get to that point, right? The first one is that his son, Stephen Pearl, is right. Like, he wants that to be like a Kelvin Sampson situation at Houston. And the easiest way to get it put into writing that Stephen Pearl is going to be the next guy to get the job when Bruce leaves is to use UConn as leverage there. So that's one thing I'd be a little bit wary about if I was David Benedict. The other part of it is I think that fan base is a little bit more blue than the fan base you get in a red state like Alabama. And I'm not going to go into too much politics here, but I don't know if Bruce, the person, would fit as well in Connecticut as he does in Alabama. And that's one thing that would be a red flag to me, thinking about the way that thing is kind of playing out. But look, when it comes down to who I would want to be the next UConn head coach, like, you don't have to, Bruce Pearl would be the top of the list for me if they don't promote within. I think, look, frankly, I think I would want Kamani to get that shot, right? I would want Luke to get that shot if it's not Kamani. Also, if I'm Dan, like, I'm doing everything in my power to bring Luke with me from Connecticut to LA. Like, I think so much of and Kamani does a lot of it too. Like, this is not I don't want to disrespect Kamani here, but I think that so much of what Luke brings to the preparation, to the scouting, to the game planning, to the offense is something that would translate very, very well, and something that Dan would need when he was in LA.
I think that to your point, and you've said it, I mean, Jeff, you're swinging after one name because it's not – you're in a position here on June the 6th where it's hard to rationalize more than a name, more than 2 or 3 names. Like, I'm trying in my head to think of who that other candidate is. There's no one out there.
No. Most of them have high buyouts. Again, Nate Oates, yeah, he'd work. I mean, he'd be great too at UConn, but he's got a higher buyout. Bruce's buyout, I think, is around $5-6 million, somewhere around there.
But are you leaving what you've built at this point? You're jumping into summer workouts. You've promised kids certain things at this point. It's June. Like, you're set, or you're thinking about winning a national championship come April if you're Nate Oates now in Tuscaloosa with a top 3 team.
Sure.
Could be the best team in sports. You can win it all.
No doubt. No, like, to me, if I'm Dave Benedict, again, no disrespect to Kamani Young and Luke Murray, but, like, Bruce Pearl's done it at the highest level as a head coach for how many years? Like, it's a no-brainer to me. And you may take a step back. Yeah, you may lose, who knows? Aiden Mahaney may leave, or Terrace Reed may leave. You may take a step back this year, but to me, that's more of one. Bruce Pearl's going to get players at UConn if you can get him to stores. And again, we're talking ahead of the game here. Again, as I said at the beginning, this thing isn't done by any means for Dan Hurley. Mm-hmm. This isn't done. So he's still got to figure out whether he wants this job. But if that happens, Dave Benedict has a difficult decision. And to me, again, I don't think you can go wrong with elevating one of those guys, but to me, it's a no-brainer. I would go hard after Bruce Pearl.
Rob, how is this different from other decisions we've seen, a Billy Donovan or a Coach K?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, 20 years ago, Coach K had this same decision in front of him, right? 17 years ago, after Billy Donovan went back-to-back, he had a decision about whether or not to take the Orlando Magic job. We saw Brad Stevens, after back-to-back national title game runs with Butler, get the Boston Celtics job. We saw John Beilein get a shot at the Cavaliers. Obviously, Stevens and Beilein left for the NBA, where Coach K turned down the Lakers and stayed at Duke. And Billy Donovan turned down the Magic after initially taking the job to come back to Florida. So I think that back then, 20 years ago, the landscape was so much different than it is now, right? Like when you're talking about what college is now, Goodman, you kind of hit the nail on the head with the Brad Stevens thing is it is a 24/7 job, and you don't even get an off season in May or June, right? You basically go from winning the national championship to trying to rebuild the roster to trying to make sure that you get the likes of Aiden Mahaney and Liam McNeely and Terrace Reed in to they already got their kids back on like for summer school. Like that, I think that was last week. It was the end of May. Yeah. So then you bring all of these kids in, and now you're going through summer practices, and now you're going through the workouts, and now you're going through developing.
And oh, by
guys,
the
and now
way,
you're going
hey,
through-
they have 2 open periods in June, by the way, and the
Mhm.
NBA Players Camp coming up. So, like, June sucks for coaches. And then July, you go out in the recruiting trail. So, like, it never ends. I mean, August is kind of it for college coaches, especially in the Northeast. That's it. It's a different ballgame. Again, I keep going back to the one biggest question. Like, would Dan Hurley work? Like, would he work in the NBA with his ego and his personality? Like, ego aside, could he change? Like, I just want to, I want to see it. It's a reality show. We've always said, like, Dan Hurley is a reality show wherever he's at. Imagine him in LA with LeBron James.
So look, Fandom made this point before, and I kind of want to just circle back on it. I think a lot of the insanity of Dan Hurley is, I think it's more calculated than people realize. Like, I think that there a lot of
is.
I think a lot of what he does and a lot of that, like part of like, there's sometimes when he just can't control himself, right? Like the funniest moment of the college basketball season last year was at that point in the national championship game when Cam Spencer was like dribbling on the wrong side of the floor and Dan wanted him on the other side of the floor to run the offense and goes out there in the middle of the game and pushes his player to try to get him on the other side of the floor and then starts arguing with the ref like, what did I just do? Until he realizes what he did. Like, there are moments when he can't control it, but I think 95% of the time, like, the craziness, the looks, the way that he deals with the officials, like at this point, I think he's doing a lot of it because he knows that this is something that can be effective. And this is a way that he can kind of work the officials, work the fans, do all of this other stuff. I think that it's much more calculated. And I do think that there is an element of he is smart enough to realize what he has to change to be able to make it work. So I think that he would. But I also don't know, I said it before, like, I don't know if you change that part of him, is he still as effective as a coach? Does that make sense? Like, I think part of why he's effective is because he's so calculated and so intense. So if you take that away, is he still who he, if you change the fundamental aspect that makes him successful, is he still going to be as successful?
I think the very question you're asking is the question that Dan wants to answer. Because if I'm Dan, I've accomplished everything I can in college now over the last 2 years. Of course you could be in John Wooden's breath and win the 3 in a row. But it's like Jeff said, if this doesn't work out, if this were not, what's the worst case scenario? It doesn't work. Then he says, I'm going to go back to college, and he can get another cash cow job. Because he would be so desired, a sexy hire at the college level, a big-time one. If it does work, he enters what he wants. Dan Hurley is wired to pursue whatever hasn't been pursued. It's just how he is. As a brother of Bobby and as a son of Bob, 2 guys who have accomplished the greatness to what they do, part of this whole equation is that Dan's had this chip on his shoulder trying to prove people wrong, and now he's proven everybody that he has to prove. But he's always searching for the next thing. If he wins it all at UConn again this upcoming season, yes, it'd be unbelievable. But we're kind of out of superlatives for it. I don't want to say it's old news, but like it feels like he's done what he's needed to do. It would be historic, but I think for him, Jeff, he's wired a certain way. And the way he's wired and the way that this opportunity has come up, UConn fans, I get you're upset. I would be too if I was potentially losing him. But don't be ignorant to the fact that this is the freaking Los Angeles Lakers head coaching vacancy. And if we were to rank the best jobs in basketball, I don't care about the drama and all that stuff. Hurley will sacrifice it if he needs to adapt for that massive paycheck and the opportunity to be on the stage with LeBron James and winning a championship, because that ego check is massive.
I don't think that it's the money as much. Real quick, Jeff, and then you can go. I don't think it's the money as much, because I think if he comes back to UConn, he's gonna make more money than he knows what to do with. I think you're 100% correct, and why I'm kind of leaning towards him probably being gone is the chance to prove people, like it's exactly what you just said. Us saying, will it work for him at the NBA level, and him saying, watch me make it work. That's why I'm like, he's probably heading to the NBA.
Sure. It's the challenge. Absolutely. It's the challenge of seeing if he can do it and getting an opportunity that, again, he never thought he'd have in his lifetime. And now it's there for him. And he's saying to himself, listen, I'm at an age where I can do it. Now, the hard part for me still is the fact that I just don't think he's going to have enough bullets there to be successful. That's the most difficult. I just don't know if they've got a plan in place post LeBron. Like, what are they going to be able to do? They don't have enough guys around. We saw this team barely make the playoffs this year. And what if LeBron gets hurt? What if AD gets hurt? That's the part I would feel sad about in a way. I would love to see, if you gave Dan Hurley enough, can he be successful in the NBA? I just see this thing going downhill, whether it's JJ Redick, whether it's Dan Hurley, whether it's Brad Stevens, whoever it would be, Sam Cassell, whoever gets hired there. I just don't think they've got enough. So that's now the second thing for me, and this is kind of off tangent a little bit here. Man, would I love to see Dan Hurley versus Tony Brothers. Like that, I would pay money to see, because that type of battle, I mean, imagine how quickly these refs have not tossed Hurley. They've given him tees, but imagine how quickly Dan Hurley is going to get the hook from Tony Brothers when he says some shit or starts throwing his arm up there and getting, the fans going in LA. That would be worth the price of admission, wouldn't it?
That's what would have to change, like that part of it. They're not going to, those NBA refs are going to see this college coach come in and yell at them, and they're going to be like, no, F you, bomb, go, get out of here. We don't like, this is not the NBA. And to your, like, again, another really good point that you just made, Jeff, that I want to emphasize and circle back on is that if this is where, like, the pushback to what I said before is, if this is where you're going to try to make your mark as an NBA coach and prove people wrong, is probably not the place where you're going to be able to prove people wrong, right? Like, you have LeBron and AD, and they're about to bring in Bronny James. Like, it just, is this where you want to go to try to stake your claim?
But maybe this isn't. Maybe it's the next spot. Like Billy Donovan at Oklahoma City, it didn't work. He got another chance in Chicago. Now he'll probably, if it doesn't work out in Chicago, he would get another opportunity. So, again, it's not like this would be it for Hurley. He would, if he wants to, he could stay in the NBA for another 10 years probably, if he doesn't completely flop.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's close with this. Gun to your head. You got to make a prediction here. Rob, is Dan Hurley going to go in the Lakers?
I think that he is probably off to the NBA. If I had to make a guess, it's like 60-40 him being gone. It's more likely that he will be coaching LeBron James than he will be coaching Alex Caravan. And I wonder that, look, if the UConn fan is going to come out with me, this is what I'll just say. Hey, Dan, you made Alex Caravan come back from the NBA. He wanted to go. You pushed him hard to come back to school. Maybe it's time for you to return that loyalty. I'm just saying. No, he's gone.
Jeff?
Yeah. Again, the other factor here is his two sons are older now. Andrew Hurley just graduated UConn. The other son is 25 years old. So he doesn't have to worry about that. I think he takes a shot here, rolls the dice, takes a chance. The Lakers are going hard after him. All accounts, the Lakers are going hard after him. And that's what I think. If he had been down the list, it might have been different. But being wanted by Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson potentially. I mean, really, if Magic Johnson calls Dan Hurley here, like, isn't that it? Like really, Dan Hurley's going to say no to the Lakers brass and some of these big-time guys calling him? I think it's going to be awfully hard for him.
I'm with you both. I think I agree with you. It's going to be awfully hard for him to turn that down. I would say that if you're turning that down, it only fuels the debates that you want to put an end to. You are driven by proving people wrong. If you turn this down, it's going to be two narratives. One, the Lakers must have thought that he wasn't the guy, which I don't think would be the case, because we wouldn't be at this point right now. And Woj reported that they've been zeroed in on him. I mean, let's be honest here. Woj kind of bodied Shams Charania in the process here, because this let's face it, the other insider said that JJ Redick was the guy. The fact is, if he says no to this, yeah, it's a happy story, but it backfires against where he's at right now, which has been nothing but rising. And so I think he ends up taking this job to then show that he can do it in the NBA, because that's the way that he's wired. The point of this is bonkers in the world of basketball. It is day one of the NBA Finals. Jeff, I wish your Celtics luck, but on every program right now, it's kind of eerie. John Calipari stole all the headlines the day of the national title game, and now the day the finals start, where we're going to start talking about the finals and not some really stupid discourse about other things that are happening in sports. Every show is talking about Dan Hurley and the Lakers.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Amazing. And you don't think Dan Hurley likes that? Trust me, he's enjoying it. Yes.
I will say this: if we're going to thank Dan for one thing, it's that this discourse about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA and Stephen A. Smith versus Monica McNutt and Pat McAfee and white bitches and all of that, we're done with it. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for giving us this gift. Thank you.
Jeff, series prediction on the finals.
Well, first of all, we need a live look in at Andrea Hurley on Rodeo Drive, because it's going to happen here in the next few days, right? They're going to fly him out. Andrea's going to be, buying new bags. Dan Hurley's going to look at his bank account and be like, what? Maybe I shouldn't do this. I don't know. Series prediction, Celtics in 7, Jason Tatum MVP. He shuts everybody the hell up.
Wow. Robert.
Dallas in 6, Kyrie Irving MVP. Luka Doncic gets his chip. And afterwards, Jeff Goodman is going to have to write an apology letter to his biggest or the guy that he is the biggest hater of, Kyrie Irving. I can't wait for it.
I'm going to go with the Celtics in 6, and that's because Boston has Drew Holiday and Derek White. And what they do defensively makes a big difference in this series. Dallas has been stopping the paint. Guess what? The Celtics don't care about that, because they put up their 3-point barrage. I think we see it. I think we see Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum get this done. We'll see. Hey, it's June, and our content stream is just going to keep on rolling. There is no vacation for Goodman. He cannot go anywhere. We'll keep you up to date. Any developments happen, keep it here on the Field of 68. We are locked in with the Dan Hurley Lakers developments, how that impacts UConn. Stay locked in with us, everybody.